Alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Now, in this video, I'm going to help you get familiarized with the layout of a research paper. What are the components of a research paper? So this is, again, useful at the beginning of the course. So you will be able to, when you, for instance, look up an article, a research article, you will be able to read it and make sense of it. You will be able to summarize it, focusing on the most important parts that you have to summarize. And number two, it will help you, again, plan your research report or proposal. It is true that you are not going to do a fully, for example, a full-fledged research paper, but at least you know what are the main components, what are the main elements that go into the composition of a research paper in the field of linguistics or in the field of literature. For instance, I have downloaded these 3 articles. The first one is in the field of literature and it deals with Shakespeare's sonnets, particularly sonnet number 46, okay, and 47. And it uses a specific theoretical framework, okay, philosophical framework to be precise. Now, how can I just go and decompose this research article? First, any research article, any research paper should have a title. A very well developed, well written, and short, concise title that reflects what the subject matter of the research paper. It should indicate, for example, the area of study, the general subject matter, and the narrowing of it. For example, that focuses on, let's say, the book or let's say the data set that you're going to work with, the content that you're going to analyze. Also, it should refer to the theory or analytical framework that you want to implement. So whether this research paper is written by you or written by someone else, it should have a title that will, let's say, reveal so much about the content of the paper and will provide expectations that will help me as a reader go through the article focusing on that major expectation which was previously outlined in the title. Number 2, for a research article, you should have what we call an abstract. Up to 200 words maximum, this abstract summarizes the objective of the study. It also pinpoints the theory, the methodology being used, and the methods, the tools, the analytical tools being implemented, okay? And the content that you want to analyze. In this case, for example, the researcher focused on Shakespeare's sonnets, particularly 2 of them. Also, this abstract should demonstrate the results and major findings, we can say. So the results of the analysis, this analysis not only emphasizes, etc. So this analysis should reveal something, should show some kind of result, and major, for example, let's say contribution that was the outcome of this, for example, extended analysis conducted by the researcher or the author of the paper. So the abstract is a very important component of any research paper. When do we write the abstract? We write the abstract when we finish everything, when we do, for example, when we explore the subject area, when we do the analysis, when we provide proper discussion of the analysis and its findings, and write the conclusion, we write the abstract because it is more of a summary of what you have done or what the researcher have done in the paper. Also, we should have keywords. Now, what is a keyword? Keyword for the research article itself that will help, for example, the researcher or researchers be visible as researchers, be visible as the writers of this article. So some of the major words available in the title were Descartes. This is one of the famous philosophers. So you notice that Descartes, for example, name is present. There is also a domain of philosophy called epistemology, and it seems that it's part of the content of the research paper. So it's now listed as a keyword. Also, occulocentrism, which is again the subject matter mentioned in the title. Also, Plato, who is the second, for example, part of this philosophical or theoretical framework and mentioned in the title. And of course, Shakespeare and sonnets, which is again part of the title which we have reviewed previously. So these now are three components which are very important in any research paper. Let's have a look at the second paper in the field of linguistics, this one here. Now, as you see again, we have a title which is indicative of the content of the paper, Hate Speech on TikTok, a forensic linguistic study. So it's a linguistic study. It is working with hate speech, that's the subject matter. And where is the data set coming from? Where is the data coming from? It is coming from TikTok, right? Now, there is also an abstract section, as you see, which summarizes the objective, the methodology, and the results of this research paper. There are also main keywords, hate speech, TikTok, forensic linguistics, which are major keywords related directly to the title. And these components replicate. They are repeated everywhere. Whenever you check a research paper, you will find that these are three major components that are present in all research papers. Now let's move on to the following section, which is what? The introduction. Okay? The introduction usually is the first part of a research paper. So this paper here about sonnets, Shakespearean sonnets, and this one here, the linguistic one about hate speech on TikTok, as you see, they have an introduction section. Now, what does the introduction section include? In most cases, it includes some sort of an introductory part that provides a background. Sometimes the introduction section is called background in certain research papers. There is no point in just repeating yourself all the time. It could be named introduction, it could be named background, it could be just a proper title like this one here without even the word introduction. But in most cases, it's an introductory part which includes the following subcomponents. It includes a research problem, okay, definition of major terms, concepts being discussed. It includes as well a presentation of the content, the books, or for example, if you are dealing with literary studies, the literary works that you are analyzing. If you are dealing with linguistics, then maybe the content, the language content that you are analyzing. It includes the thesis or hypothesis or propositions or argument, main argument of the research paper, the questions of the study. Okay, what does the study's kind of questions it tries to answer, or the problem it tries to solve and discuss. So all of these usually are included in, let's say, the introduction part, and at the end of the introduction part, usually we prepare the reader for a transition to the methodology part. Have a look at the second, for example, the introduction part in here, in the linguistics paper. You'll notice as well that includes the same components: research problem, objectives of the study or hypotheses, etc. Then we move on to the methods section, the methodology section, okay? Sometimes in certain types of research papers, they will call it methods and materials, okay? Have a look at the name used here in this literary paper. So we have, after the introduction, we have, I think I skipped it. Okay, yes, here. We have it here. Terms related to the concept. So the author or the researcher of this paper created a methodology section which defines the theory he's working with. Sometimes in research papers in the field of literary and cultural studies, we don't find the clear-cut scientific divisions we find in linguistic papers or science papers, etc. However, the components are the same. Here we are talking about the methodology and methods, the theory that we want to implement to analyze the TikTok hate speech. Here as well, although we don't have the word methods here, but we are defining the concept and the theoretical framework, the author also moved on and discussed Plato's view of this concept and went on as well and discussed Descartes' view. So these three sections make up what the methodology of this research. Okay? So the methods in the linguistic paper is very focused, very precise, as you see, tabulated content. After the methods or methodology section, we find usually the results, then discussion. In some research papers, they combine the two in one section, results and discussion. Sometimes you will have it as findings and discussion. It's okay. If you have a look here in the literary research paper, you will find that this section or analysis section is actually, starts here. So I have the Shakespearean sonnets read for this concept or theoretical framework. The theoretical framework is applied to Shakespeare's sonnets or selected works, generally speaking, and it moves on to go on to apply Plato and Descartes to sonnet 46. And then, of course, you will we have here the results of the analysis in the form of quotations from the sonnets. Again, Plato's and Descartes in sonnet 47. So there is further application, further analysis going in here. The same applies for the linguistic research paper. You will find that there are sections, okay, results and discussion, that is being, broken down into themes for analysis and results and discussion, okay? Themes and sub-themes, as you see, okay, and implications. Then we have what we call, this is the discussion part, usually separated, sometimes combined together with the results, like we have it here. And finally, we have the conclusion. The conclusion part summarizes everything that took place or being carried out in this research paper. The objectives or hypotheses being discussed, they are here represented, rephrased. as well as the methodology, as well as the results, with some commentary on the value or contribution of this particular research. As you see in here as well, there is a conclusion section, right? And this conclusion section summarizes the major points that have been discussed in the research paper on Shakespeare. Sometimes we will have, so in these two papers, we didn't have a particular section. We call this section review of related literature. This section usually comes after the introduction and before the methodology. But in these two papers, it was not there. What happens in this particular section? We summarize research papers done by others on the same topic we are working on, okay? However, in certain cases, research papers done by others are cited in the introduction, as you see, right? So they are, the researchers here are actually in the introduction, merged with it, they've merged with it the review of literature section. And it happens, by the way. So you'll notice that there are plenty of references being cited in here, which means that they have summarized these references and presented them. Okay? This is another paper entitled Glorification of True Love in Shakespeare's Sonnets, Sonnet 116, a textual approach. And you will find here that there is, again, the usual, a proper title, concise and focused, abstract, definitely a major component, keywords, an introduction that is, again, it includes subsections, as you see. These subsections, sometimes people create them to make the reading experience easier for academics. Then we have, as I told you a moment ago, a literature review section devoted to reviewing research that is related to the subject area and topic of this particular paper. You have to learn how to do a review of literature because it's a very important skill. Also, we have a research methods section. It could be named methods, research method, methods and materials, research methodology, etc. Now, we have the method section completed with subsections. Then we have the analysis. And of course, as you see, there is no proper title which indicates that it's the analysis section, but it is very clear that the author now is doing the analysis and discussing, for example, his findings and results. The final part is the conclusion, as per usual, and the references, as you see, are listed at the end, depending, and in this case it is APA style, if you remember. We have explained that in APA style, the date of publication is usually listed at the beginning of the reference entry. So these are like 3 samples we have looked at. 2 of them did not include the literature review section. The literature review section was included in the introduction, and this one here included the literature review section. What's a literature review section? It's, as we said a moment ago, you as a researcher trying to prove to me that you have read a lot about the topic that you are working on and that you found other researchers who were interested in the same topic, and you want to explain to me what's the difference between your research, your current research, your present research proposal, and their, for example, researchers. And the end product of the literature review is to explain to the people who are going to read your article, what is actually the contribution of your research paper. Okay? So this is just a simplification of the whole process, a comparison between 3 research papers in the field of linguistics and literary studies to identify the major components, the main components of a research paper, the main elements of a research paper. This is like a recipe to follow. Okay? Have a super day.